Welcome to Ignorantia Legis with JD Betts. It is our 10th episode, episode number 10. It is our 10th episode, episode number 10. And yeah, it's the 22nd of September 2020. Okay, I hope relax mo din ha. Maybe nakatuog mo, ipuka mo sa itong alarm notification. By the way, para mas mayo ang inyong pagtanaw sa Siba TV, o personal suggestion ako is use YouTube, delete Facebook, because YouTube has a better signal, better audio and video, and better cataloging. Makatalog ninyo by episode. So when you search later on for certain episodes, dalira. So Ignorantia Legis, episode 10. Alright, so kahapon nag-discuss remember, so far from episode 1 to episode 10, nag-discuss lang tayo kung saan to'y different coverages sa law. If you are curious na citizen, curious na listener or viewer, kung nakabantay ka ang let's say topic na to on law, so far discuss to ang overview sa bar syllabus. It's an overview. Say coverage sa political law, labor law, civil law, taxation, mercantile law, criminal law, and the fourth Sunday for the bar is the remedial law and legal ethics. Nag-discuss gapon sus nahurot atong oras sa syllabus na. We're just reading out. Wala to explain na. We're just reading out the topics. Grabe ang topic sa remedial law. That's why it has 20% weight. The biggest weight of all the bar subjects. Dako kagrado sa remedial law, saka na yung mga average. Naman ikalisod sa Philippine bar. Can you imagine mag-discuss ka, mag-study ka all of the subjects, 8 subjects, and that 8 subjects in different topics. So, padayon na to ang discussion na to sa remedial law kay wato mahuman mag-exonan ato ratong gi-go over. So again, kung gusto mo tan-aw sa previous episodes, you can go to YouTube. Tanaw ninyo ang mga episodes na to sa Ignorantia Legis. Yeah, I'm sure wala na po ma-change ang title. Ang magawas aniron. So, naglilit from maguhira pa. I will just change that later on sa YouTube. Now, jurisdiction. So, I suggest nga mo subscribe mo sa YouTube para maklaro dito sa YouTube. Anyway, there's a subscription there. Headlines. Exchange rate. Okay, so discuss jurisdiction, and then the types of pleadings. Paganita sa kung ano sa diferensya sa summons of pleadings. Nahunong taning pleadings magkaigsunan. Sa na motions, sa na pre-trial. So, nag-discuss pa tani ha sa topics Grabe ni eskwela. 4 years ko kamo study ng law. So kita 4 years at mo study ani. Ikaw man ni lawyer ta. Now, pareho na to sa pleadings. Effects of failure to plead. So, many topics man kayo. Failure to plead defenses and objections. Failure to plead a compulsory counterclaim and cross-claim. Default. When a declaration of default is proper. Effects of an order of default. Relief from an order of default. So, ngayon relief, I get a claiming fame. Fame. Fraud, accident, mistake, excusable neglect. Effects of an order of default. Relief from an order of default. Effects of a partial default. Extent of relief. Actions where defaults are not allowed. Kung di ka matubag, default. Pero, na-access nga, dili ka pwede mo default, ha? Uy, subuot na mo default ko. Actions where default are not allowed. Filing and service of pleadings. Payment of docket fees. Distinguish filing and service of pleadings. So, lain ng filing, lain ng service. Periods of filing of pleadings, manner of filing, personal filing, filing by registered mail, filing by accredited courier, transmittal by electronic mail or other electronic means, mode of service, personal service, service by registered mail, service by accredited courier, service by electronic mail, facsimile transmission or other electronic means, service as provided for in international conventions, service of judgments, final orders or resolutions, service of court-issued orders and other documents, conventional service of filing of orders, pleadings and other documents. When service is deemed complete, proof of filing and service. Under amendment of pleadings, amendment as a matter of right, amendments by leave of court. Leave of court means by permission of court. Formal amendment, effect of amended pleading, and supplemental pleadings. That's a summons. Nature and purpose of summons in relation to actions in personam, in rem, and quasi in rem. When summons are issued, contents of summons, duty of counsel, return. So, voluntary appearance. Who may serve summons, personal service, substituted service, constructive service, service upon a defendant where his identity is unknown or his whereabouts are known. Ang imong defendant unknown, saan na pag-serve? Kanya, ang imong defendant may be known but we don't know the whereabouts. Saan pag-serve? Extraterritorial service when around, that means outside the Philippines. Service upon prisoners and minors, upon spouses. Service upon domestic or foreign private juridical entities. Proof of service. Motions. Motions in general. Definition of a motion. Distinguish motions and pleadings. Contents and form of motions. Litigious and non-litigious motions. When notice of hearing necessary, omnibus motion rule, prohibited motions, motions for bill of particulars, purpose and when applied for, actions of the court, compliance with order and effect of non-compliance for the motion of a bill of particulars, effect on the period to file a responsive pleading, dismissal of actions. Dismissal with prejudice, dismissal upon notice by plaintiff, dismissal upon motion by plaintiff, effect of existing counterclaim, dismissal due to the fault of plaintiff, dismissal of counterclaim, cross-claim, and third-party complaint. Pretrial, concept of pretrial, nature and purpose, notice of pretrial, appearance of parties, effect of failure to plead, failure to appear, pretrial brief, effects of failure to appear, pretrial order, and distinguish pretrial in civil cases and pretrial in criminal cases. Kaya ba ka ni pretrial? Abot lang. Nindot na idea ng pretrial, it's a, you know, the concept is good. The problem is this. It became a red tape. Okay. Everybody will have to go to the pretrial, and that's a waste of time. Because di magid na magsabot sa pretrial. Nganto naman sa kaso yun, kami nga, na korte dito, mag-pretrial, magsaning kihata. Ito na yung konsa, pabuton ta ng Supreme Court. So, ang nahitabo, the pretrial becomes another step of the red tape. Because cases are not settled at pretrial. Sabot sila, yung mga witnesses. Walang gyapon na. Or compromise, etc. Walang gyapon. Pretrial, the purpose of pretrial, again, is to plan out the course of the trial. Plan out ba? Abot ito sa kanyo, we cannot present this witness due to excusable neglect. Intervention. Requisites for intervention, time to intervene, remedy for the denial of motion to intervene. Subpoena justice tecum, subpoena ad testificandum, service of subpoena, compelling attendance of witnesses, contempt, quashing of subpoena. Computation of time. Even how to compute the number of days, na topic na po par exam na. Modes of discovery. Depositions, pending action. Depositions, pending action or pending appeal of before action. Meaning of deposition. Uses, scope of examination. When may objections to admissibility be made? When may taking a deposition be terminated or its scope limited? Written interrogatories to adverse parties. Consequences of refusal to answer. So, grabe na. Dagang kaso na nga pildi tungod lang anang written interrogatories, but tagsa rin mo gamit anang written interrogatories. Tagsa rin mo gamit anang. But that's very powerful. Consequences of refusal to answer. Effects of failure to serve written interrogatories. Request for admission. Implied admission by adverse party. Consequences of failure to answer request for admission. Effect of admission. Effect of failure to file and serve request for admission. Production or inspection of documents or things. Physical and mental examination of persons. Consequences of refusal to comply with modes of discovery. One of these days, maglista niya ako mga movies about law nga nindot. Trial, adjournments and postponements. Requisites of motion to postpone trial. Where are you? Samanta. Dire. Magka. Impag na. It's a bug. Okay. Ano itong mga messages niyo karon? Si Lenny Manching, naminaw, from Australia. Juji Teves, nice background. Lucita Brosas, from Bakayan, Prince of the Covenant, naminaw po na ito karon. Sige. Okay. Now, so, discovery pa to. Trial. So, sabi ya. Kan trial na dan, tanaw to rin, mag-simple ra iyang steps, pero taas na kayo na. Adjournments and postponements, requisites of motion to postpone trial, for absence of evidence, for illness of party or counsel, and agreed statement of facts, order of trial, reversal of order, consolidation or severance of hearing or trial, delegation of reception of evidence, trial by commissioners, reference by consent, ordered on motion, and then powers of the commissioner, commissioner's report, notice to parties, and hearing on the report. Then demurrer to evidence, ground, effect of denial, effect of grant, waiver of right to present evidence, action to demurrer to evidence, and distinguish demurrer to evidence in a civil case and demurrer to evidence in a trial case, in a criminal case. Judgments and final orders. Judgment after pre-trial, judgment without trial, judgment on the pleadings, summary judgments for the claimant, summary judgment for the defendant, and when the case is not fully adjudicated, affidavits and attachments. Distinguish judgment on the pleadings and summary judgment. Mogawas nga bar. Ambot nga favorite sa nila. Judgment on the pleadings and summary of judgments. Kaya judgment on the pleading itself, di naglang mag-trial pa. So, mas dali ng judgment on the pleadings. Contents of a judgment, rendition of judgment, final orders, entry of judgment, and final order. Remember, civil procedure pa niya, wala pa ta sa criminal procedure, wala pa sa special proceedings, wala pa ta sa special rules on environmental cases, amparo, etc. Grabe na. Money coverage sa remedial law. Yeah, ang atong pagbasa lang tas mga subtopics, ha, di na ang actual cases nga tunan, di na ang libro tunan, pagbasa lang, huwag na doon na ka-oras, last year, yesterday, sugod na niya. Post-judgment remedies. Motion for new trial or reconsideration, grounds, when to file, denial of the motion, grant of the motion, remedy when motion is denied, and the fresh 15-day rule period. So, ambot lang. But when I wrote an article about this way back 2003, 2004, I questioned this difficulty on the fresh motion. Bang! Then suddenly, 2 years later, they had a case in and the ponensya was first placer in the bar, si Arturo Brion. And Arturo Brion, probably he has read my column, and Arturo Brion tackled the issue in the fresh period. Kasi naglibo kung nganong na fresh period, nganong remaining period ang uban. So, nausab, fresh period. So, that's one nga I think I helped change the rules of court. And second, Rule 65 was amended because of the thing I wrote. And Justice Arturo Brion, before he became a justice of the Supreme Court, purchased a copy of my book. That's why I know where he lives. Justice would support purchasing a copy of my book. Sakto na. Ano na, okay na ko na. Sakto na akong ginabuhi. Mara na akong paghambog. Remedy against, appeals in general, judgment and final orders subject to appeal, matters not appealable, remedy against judgment and orders which are not appealable, modes of appeal, ordinary appeal, petition for review and certiorari, issues to be raised on appeal, period of appeal, perfection of appeal. When is appeal perfected? Appeal from judgment or final orders from the MTC, appeal from judgment or the final orders of the RTC, appeal from judgment or final orders of the Court of Appeals, appeals from Sandigan Bayan, appeals from the Court of Tax Appeals, and the review of final judgment or final orders of the Commission on Audit and Commission on Elections. So I wrote an article about this, the Rule 64 man siya. Actually, ako wa pa'y bar question on Rule 64. Kung ako'y mabuhat sa bar exam, I will make a question on Rule 64. Although Rule 64 is practically the same as Rule 65, ang Rule 64 is different because Rule 64 has to accommodate the Constitution. This is the case where the Constitution emphasizes the period to appeal sa COA o sa COMELEC o sa Civil Service. Review of the final judgments of the Civil Service Commission. Review of the final orders of the Ombudsman. Review of the final orders of the NLRC or National Labor Relations Commission. Review of final judgment or final orders of quasi-judicial agencies. Relief from judgments, orders, and proceedings. Grounds for availing of the remedy. Time to file petition. Contents of petition. Annulment of judgments or final orders and resolutions. Grounds for annulment. Dili annulment of marriage, annulment of judgment ni AOJ. Period to file action. Effects of judgment of annulment. Collateral attack of judgments. Now, execution, satisfaction, and effect of judgments. The difference between finality of judgment for purposes of appeal and for purposes of execution. Dahil na siya. When execution shall issue. Execution is a matter of rights and discretionary execution. Pilipinas ay ambot lang. Na ako'y naibawaan nga case 10 years na lang. Amo na 15 years wa pagyapon ma-execute. Kaya ang kontra, bilyonaryo tas Manila. Multi-billionaire. One of the richest men in the country, yung companies. How a judgment is executed. Executed by motion or independent action. Issuance and contents of a writ of execution. Execution of judgments for money. Execution of judgment for specific acts. Execution of special judgments. Effect of levy on third persons. Ayay, i-levy ang imong property niya dahil tag-ihalain or mortgage ito line. Properties exempt from execution, ng mga family home. Proceedings where property is claimed by third persons in relation to third-party claim in attachment and replevin. Rules on redemption. Examination of judgment obligor when judgment is unsatisfied. Examination of obligor and judgment obligor. Effect of judgment or final orders. Enforcement and effect of foreign judgments or final orders. Now, provisional remedies. Nature and purpose. Jurisdiction over provisional remedies. Preliminary attachment. That's one of the remedies. Provisional remedies. Grounds for issuance of a writ of attachment. Requisites. Issuance and contents of order of attachment, affidavit and bond, rule on prior or contemporaneous service of summons, manner of attaching real and personal property when property attached is claimed by third persons, discharge of attachment, discharge of attachment and counterbond, satisfaction of judgments out of property attached, compared with garnishments and levy on execution. Preliminary injunction. Definitions and differences. Preliminary injunction, temporary restraining order, and status quo ante. Requisites, kinds of injunctions, kinds of temporary restraining orders. When writ may be issued, the writ of preliminary injunction, and when writ may not be issued, grounds for the issuance of preliminary injunction, grounds for objection to or the resolution of injunction or restraining order, duration of temporary restraining orders, role on prior or contemporaneous service of summons in relation to attachment, receivership, cases when receiver may be appointed, requisites, requisites before issuance of an order, general powers of a receiver, two kinds of bonds, termination of receivership. So receivership is one of the provisional remedies. Replevin, sa mga replevin, ma-discuss niya na ito. When writs may be issued, requisites, affidavit and bond, re-delivery bond, sheriff's duty in the implementation of the writ when property is claimed by third party, provisional remedies and interim reliefs under special laws and rules, provisional remedies of the family courts, Human Security Act, Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act, Precautionary Hold Orders. Precautionary Hold Orders. And then Special Civil Actions. Rule 65. Di taasa ba niya? We're just, mentioning the topics. Abot. 2 ka oras na ta. Mana ang coverage sa kuan? Napay-evidence di ay. Napay summary procedure. Grabe ni. Hindi ni mo magkuhan. Paganita sa special kuhan lagi. Grabe. Provisional remedies and interim reliefs under special laws, provisional remedies of the family courts, Human Security Act, Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act, Precautionary Hold Orders, and special civil actions. Nature of special civil actions. Distinguish ordinary civil action and special civil actions. Jurisdiction and venue. Interpleader. Requisites for interpleader when to file and dismissal. Declaratory reliefs and similar remedies. Who may file action. Requisites of action for declaratory relief when courts may refuse to make judicial declaration. Conversion to ordinary action. Proceedings considered as similar remedies. Reformation of an instrument. Consolidation of ownership. Quieting of title to real property. Review of judgments and final orders or resolution of the Commission on Election and the Commission on Audits. Distinction in the application of Rule 65 to judgments of the Commission on Elections and Commission on Audit, and the application of Rule 65 to other tribunals, persons, and officers. Rule 45, Rule 65. Gawas ka na exam na as bar. Certiorari prohibition and mandamos, mana Rule 65 na siya. Definition and distinctions, requisites, petition for certiorari, prohibition and mandamos is proper injunctive appeal, injunctive relief. Distinguish certiorari, appeal by certiorari and Article 8, Section 1 of the Constitution. Distinguish prohibition, mandamos and injunction, when and where to file the petition, and exceptions to filing of motion for consideration before filing petition, reliefs petitioners entitled to, and acts or omissions of the first level regional trial courts in election cases, and where to file a petition, and the effects of filing of an unmeritorious petition. Aha! This is where they amended the Rule 65 because of discussion I wrote about Rule 65. Yeah, kumusta man mo diyang namina na to ron? Okay, si Ria Ranch, namina na to ron. Mutanag asa ko ng bus ni Kapitan Ninyal kay willing siya mo perma. Quo warranto. Distinguish quo warranto under the rules of court and quo warranto under the Omnibus Election Code. When government commences an action against individuals or associations, when individual may commence an action, judgment in quo warranto action, rights of a person adjudged entitled to public office, and limitations. Limitations gatawan. Na-remove mong ganit ninyo under a quo warranto. Ang siya na ni? Siya. Ang Chief Justice sa Supreme Court ng expropriation. Matters to allege in complaint for expropriation. 2 stages in every action for expropriation. When plaintiff can immediately enter into the possession of real property, new system of immediate payment of initial just compensation, defenses and objections, order of expropriation, ascertainment of just compensation, appointment of commissioners, commissioner's report, court action upon commissioner's report, rights of plaintiff upon judgment and payment, effects of recording judgment, foreclosure of real estate mortgage. Mani man yung special civil action. Mani nakadali na kusuan kay isuding mas bright pa ta sa examiner. Foreclosure of real estate mortgage. Kinds of foreclosure. Judicial foreclosure, extrajudicial foreclosure. The need for special power of attorney, authority to foreclose extrajudicially, procedure where to file, where to sell, posting requirement, publication requirement, sufficiency of newspaper publication, need for republication in case of postponement, personal notice to the mortgagor when and not needed. Possession by purchaser of foreclosed property. So, kanusam siya maka-possess. The ownership, possess. Hindi ka daw bidding or after naman, ang title. Remedy of debtor if foreclosure is not proper. Redemption. Who may redeem? Amount of redemption price, price for redemption, effect of pendency of action for annulment of sale, right of possession, ministerial duty of the court, enforcement against third parties, pendency of action for annulment of sale, and annulment of sale. Yeah. May annulment of sale, Okay. Right. Text there is pardon and absolute power of the president. My answer to you is please ask that question sa Balaod o Baruganan or Kangayan every Saturday because nagsabot na ta. I will not entertain cases here na na sa mga lawyers sa Saturday. Okay. I'm just conducting lectures for your general knowledge. If you have any questions, na sa Saturday. There are 4 lawyers there. Okay. Now, partition. Partition sa yuta. Who may file a complaint? Who should be made defendants? Matters to allege in the complaint for partition. 2 stages in every action for partition. Order of partition and partition by agreement. Partition by commissioners. Appointment of commissioners. Commissioners' report. Court action upon commissioners' report. Judgment and its effects. Partition of personal property. Prescription of action for partition, and when partition is not allowed. Forcible entry and detainer. Definitions and distinctions. Distinguish forcible entry, unlawful detainer, action publicana, and action reivindicatoria. Ang uban ani ba mga law professors o students reivindicatoria day rare na siya yung vindicatoria. Jurisdiction in action publicana and action reivindicatoria, of course ganito na sa thesis. Who may institute the action and when, against whom the action may be maintained, pleadings allowed, actions in the complaint, when demand is necessary, preliminary injunction and preliminary mandatory injunction, resolving the defense of ownership, how to stay the immediate execution of judgment, prohibited pleadings and motions. Contempt. Kinds of contempt. Purpose and nature of each. Remedy against direct contempt penalty. Remedy against indirect contempt penalty. How contempt proceedings are commenced. Acts deemed punishable as indirect contempt. When imprisonment shall be imposed. Contempt against quasi-judicial bodies. Special proceedings. Settlement of estate of deceased persons. Venue and process. Which court has jurisdiction? Venue in judicial settlement of estate. Extent of jurisdiction of probate court. Powers and duties of probate court. Summary settlement of estates. Extrajudicial settlement by agreement between heirs when allowed. 2-year prescriptive period. Affidavit of self-adjudication by sole heir. Summary settlement of cases of small value when allowed. Remedy of the aggrieved parties after extrajudicial settlement of estate. Production and probate of will. Nature of the probate proceeding, who may petition for probate, and persons entitled to notice. Allowance or disallowance of will. Contents of petition for the allowance of will, grounds for disallowing a will, reprobate, requisites before will is proved outside in the Philippines, and the effect of probate. Letters testamentary and administration. When and whom letters of administration granted. Order of preference. Opposition to the issuance of letters testamentary. Simultaneous filing for petition of administration. Powers and duties of executors and administrators. Restriction on powers. Appointment of special administrator. Grounds for removal of administrator. Claims against estate. Time within which the claim shall be filed. Exceptions. Statute of non-claims. Claims of executor or administrator against the estate. Payment of debts. Actions by and against executors and administrators. Actions that may be brought against executors and administrators. Requisites before creditor may bring an action for recovery of property fraudulently conveyed by the deceased. Distribution and partition. Puro tatong oras patamahuman sa tunga pata sa remedial law. Distribution and partition. Liquidation. Project of partition. Remedy of an heir entitled to residue but not given his share. Instances when probate court may issue a writ of execution. Trustees. Distinguish trustee from executor and administrator. Conditions of the bond. requisites of the removal and resignation of a trustee, grounds for removal and resignation of a trustee, the extent of authority of a trustee. Escheat. When to file an escheat, requisites for filing of action and remedy of respondent against the petition, filing a claim. Now, mo ni nitabog kay so in 1970s ning file na og 60s ning file na og escheat proceedings ang Philippine government against the Italiano family. Kay wa na ko ni Italiano family. The Italiano family owned the entire Philippines as their kingdom. Italiano. So, wala man. Wala ron. Di na may mitunga. Sa buhi pa ko. Italiano. So, manaron ang tagiya. Philippines Italiano. Tagiya ng UP. Tagiya ng Manila Cathedral. Pulos na Italiano family. Guardianship. Venue. Appointment of guardians. General powers and duties of guardians. Termination of guardianship. Adoption. Distinguish domestic adoption from inter-country adoption. Domestic adoption. Effects of adoption. Instances when adoption may be rescinded. Effects of the rescission of adoption. Inter-country adoption. When allowed. Functions of the regional trial court. Best interest of the child standard. The writs of habeas corpus. Contents of the petition. Contents of the return. Peremptory writs and preliminary citation. When not proper applicable. When writ disallowed or discharged. Distinguish the writ of habeas corpus, writ of amparo, and the writ of habeas data. The writ of habeas corpus in relation to the custody of minors. Now, writ of amparo. Coverage. Distinguish between amparo and the search warrant. Who may file. Contents of the return. Effects of failure to return. Failure to file return. Omnibus waiver rule. Procedure for hearing. Institution of separate action. Effects of filing a criminal action. Consolidation. Interim reliefs available to petitioner and respondent. Quantum of proof in application for the issuance of the writ of amparo. Writ of habeas data. Scope of the writ. Availability of the writ. Who may file. Contents of the petition. Contents of return. Instances when petition to be heard in chambers. Consolidation. Effect of filing a criminal action. Institution of separate action. Quantum of proof in application for issuance of the writ of habeas data. Change of name. Difference under Rule 103, Republic Act 9048 and Rule 108. Grounds for change of name. Absentees. Purpose of the rule. Who may file. When to file. Cancellation or correction of entries in civil registry. Entries subject to cancellation or correction under Rule 108 in relation to Republic Act number 9048. Appeals in special proceedings. Judgments and orders for which appeal may be taken, when to appeal, modes of appeal, and the rule on advance distribution. So, di sa ta mag-discuss sa criminal procedure o uban. Grabe, 2 hours na to kay yesterday o karon. Anyway, thank you and good afternoon. Kini si JT Ben sa episode 10 sa Ignorantia Legis, September 22, 2020. Salamat sa pag-uban kanako. See you tomorrow. Thank you and good afternoon.